Hello everyone. This video is about average rate of change, but here we are given different functions and we are comparing the functions. So in this delta math example, I'm given f of x, g of x, and h of x. Those are just three separate functions, and I need to order these according to average rate of change for the interval 3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 4. So I'm going to take it one at a time. Here I'm given a graph, and I need to know the average rate of change from the interval x is 3, right there, to x is 4. So one thing I can do is I can literally draw a line between these two, just between those 2 points. And I can already see that the average rate of change there is fairly steep and it's positive. And I could count my difference here. I have to be very careful of my step because on the x-axis, it's increasing by 1, and on the y-axis, I'm increasing by 2. So I have to be very careful about that. So one thing I can do is look at my input values. And then ask myself, when the input is 3, what is the output? So when x is 3, y is negative 2. And when the input is 4, when x is 4, the output is 6. Now I have the option here to measure my change in y divided by change in x on my table. So I'm going to do that. So I'm getting something that looks like change in y is 8 divided by change in x, which is 1, would give me, for that interval, an average rate of change of 8 units, whatever my variable would be that I'm looking at for my unit per unit rate. So the other thing I can do is literally just look at the line that I drew between those 2 points and find the pattern. So my rise is 8. My run is 1. So either way, for f of x, I get an average rate of change for that interval of 8. So somehow I need to record that or remember that because I have 2 more functions to look at. So I move to my next one. Okay. And I'm going to remember, okay, that other one was 8. So now let's look at our table for g of x. So I have input and then output, right? The g of x would be the output depending on input. And again, my interval is from 3 to 4. So that change from 3 to 4 is still positive 1. So the question is, what is my change in y between those two x values? So for this function, when x is 3, y is 18. When x is 4, y is 13. So I can immediately see that as one goes up, the other goes down. So that's going to give me a negative slope. So from here to here is minus 5. So change in y is negative 5. Change in x is positive 1. So that overall rate of change is negative 5. Okay, so right now I have, if I'm ordering them from least to greatest, g of x and then f of x. But now I must do h of x. I'm going to remember that negative 5. So here I must input 3 into the function to get my output. And then I need to input 4 to get my output. And then again, I can measure my change in y over my change in x. So I'm going to input 3 first. I'm going to follow order of operations. So I'm going to square 3 and then multiply by -1. So I do my exponent first, and then I multiply by this -1, which is essentially what that means, to take the opposite there. So that becomes -9. Then I need to input 3 into this other x value. That becomes +9. 3 times 3 is 9. So those have essentially canceled each other. And then I have +21. So when x is 3, the output, the y value, is 21. And just to review, what that means is h of 3 here is 21. Just to review function notation, when the x is 3, h of 3, that h of x value will be 21, which is the y, the output. Not y cubed, just y. Okay, let's do the same thing, inputting 4 into the function. So that becomes so what I've done is I've placed the 4, substituted the 4 everywhere I see x. 4 squared is 16, but then I must take the opposite, plus 12. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 21. So then when I just add that, it looks like I have -4 plus 21, which will leave me with 17. Can check it a different way. 21 plus 12, 33 minus 16. Yes, I get 17. Just checking my arithmetic there. And now I have my two output values, so I can measure change in y, which is down 4. And my change in x was +1. So that overall average rate of change is -4. So now I have my 3 average rates of change for these functions. And so to order from least to greatest, I would have to do g of x, because that value was -5. And then the next would be h of x, because that value was -4. And then finally, my final one was f of x, because that value was 8. So this is a multi-step problem, which would be a very common Math 1 thing that you would see, where you show your ability to do all these steps and arrive at a conclusion, just like you might need to arrive at a conclusion in a real world situation.